The Honda Prologue is Honda's entry into the extremely competitive, all-electric, mid-size SUV segment. Now, Honda is known for building some of the best and most popular SUVs on the planet, and the Civic. And after saying that, you might already be making your way to my comment section to tell me about how the Prologue isn't built by Honda, therefore we can't apply their stellar reputation to it. But the CR-V didn't get to be the third most popular SUV in America simply by being the most reliable. Yes, reliability into and itself is not invaluable. It's not purely why people own and keep the cars they buy. You could have the most reliable car on the planet and hate it. I call this the it factor. Why people like the car they buy is not always quantifiable. I say this first because it's the biggest argument against this car, aside from it being part of a already controversial segment. Before I go any further, I'd like to thank Walker Jones Automotive Group in Waycross, Georgia for providing this vehicle. It is for sale, and if you would like to purchase it or one like it, there'll be a link in the video description below. That argument being that if it's based on the Blazer, it must be the same or worse. So you should just get the Blazer instead, or neither, because badge engineering is the devil. But there's actually good reason why this is GM's best-selling electric vehicle. Honda actually designed it. Yes, the underpinnings are all Blazer, but Honda got to design nearly everything else. The sheet metal, the shocks, the springs, the spring rate, dampers, interior, that's all Honda's ideas, philosophy, and insight. From there, it got shared switches and tech, parts from the architectural platform limitations. So less of a Honda interpreted by GM and more of a GM designed by Honda. Simply put, GM couldn't have just slapped a Buick badge on this and called it the N-Clog. Honda had real input on the car that they were going to be selling on their lots to their customers. So how did they do? Well, the things that Honda had control over, they nailed it. The exterior is conservative and elegant. Honda calls it neo-rugged. To me, it looks like a regular crossover. It flies completely under the radar. Your friends, family, coworkers, they would never know it's electric unless you told them. The story continues on the interior. Simple, clean design, function over form. Everything's operation is very clear. The radio volume and HVAC temperature both importantly have knobs. I personally would have liked a headlight switch, but I can't honestly think of the last time I touched mine. Automatic headlights are standard, and high beams are on a shared multifunction switch along with the turn signals and wipers. The wipers are on the left side because in what I can only think is an attempt to poach buyers of Teslas, GM has so gracefully borrowed a shifter out of one. Unlike a Tesla or Blazer EV for that matter, the Honda Prologue does have a power on-off button, and I like that. There's something about the familiarity of getting in a car, hitting a power button, putting it in gear, and then driving off. Without it, I'd be lost. I don't want to call Honda owners old-fashioned, but don't make them change now. Speaking of not changing now, the Prologue still has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, instead of that thing that GM provides. In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with the connectivity that GM provides. Android Auto is just safe and familiar. Don't make me change now. From there, all of the radio icons are large, easy to see, and touch. This continues into the fully customizable instrument cluster. Layouts can be changed with a touch of a steering wheel button, and info can be added from the radio display. Speaking of steering wheel buttons, there's quite a few of them, and you probably wouldn't even notice. On the face of it, you have standard adaptive cruise controls, along with radio source controls and instrument cluster configurations. On the back side, there's radio station controls, with radio volume controls. A nice touch is the Regen on Demand button, so you can start braking without even moving your foot. All of this allows you to customize to a point where you almost never have to take your eyes off the road, aside from, say, changing the temperature or yelling at your kids. All other controls are exactly where you expect them to be. The seat, the windows, the mirrors could all be operated blindfolded. The seats are firm but comfortable. They really feel like they were designed for a person larger than me, which is reassuring that it's better suited for a larger portion of the population. There's plenty of space everywhere. Headroom, legroom, man-spreading room. I don't feel cramped in this car at all. The same in the back. It is huge back here. The seatbelt buckles tuck away nicely so that they can fold flat. The seats either sit upright or recline. The child seat anchor hooks are very obvious, noticeable, and accessible, unlike in some cars where you have to struggle between the seats. And that's when it hit me. That's what this car is perfect for. The standard safety features, the huge back seat space, the wide rear door opening, the tall roofline, the near perfect crash test rating. I don't know if it's what Honda set out to do, but I can't think of anything short of a 14 mile per gallon SUV or a straight up minivan that would be a more kid-friendly vehicle. And with no transmission tunnel, you could fit 3 adults back here, or 2 in an awkward position, and still have plenty of legroom in the front. And your kids would sleep good in this thing because it's everything you think a Cadillac should be. It's roomy, quiet, heavy, and rides like a dream. None of which are bad things if that's what you're looking for. It absolutely devours every bump in the road. Driving without the radio on, like I'm doing right now, is a bit unsettling. It is seriously quiet in this car. You have to be going well over 70 before any hint of wind noise creeps in. This, and I'll remove any filters I have, is what this car sounds like at over 70. The Honda Prologue is incredibly approachable and easy to drive. It does what it sets out to do well, almost exceedingly well. With nearly 300 miles of range, you can get to work and back no problem. Although trips over 4 hours will likely call for a stop somewhere along the way. Charging under 10 kilowatts will take over an hour to get any meaningful range, but charging at over 30 kilowatts brings times down substantially. But here in rural Georgia, those types of chargers are few and far between. Thankfully, Walker Jones has multiple fast chargers on site. You're not gonna wow anyone with the speed of it or carve up a canyon, but it's fine. It's not intimidating. Unlike a lot of electric cars, you could accidentally floor this thing and not need a change of pants. 0 to 60 is something like 6 to 7 seconds, and Honda advertises around 240 for a single motor or 280 horsepower for a dual motor, which is good for things that sensible people care about, like car insurance rates, controllable power, and interest rates. Like the 0% financing Honda's offering right now to buy, or the multiple sub $500 leasing options, which is a better deal than GM is offering on essentially the same car. The EV tax credit, along with 0% interest in a 3% inflation world, could mean Honda is basically paying you to take it. The only hard decision is which trim to get. On the low end, it makes no difference, the specs and features of a long-range Kia EV6 and Hyundai Ioniq 5 without looking absurd. It matches the Model Y while maintaining proper panel gapping, and does a better job of being normal than the Volkswagen ID4. And honestly, I don't even know why Toyota bothered with the BZ4X. None of which I've driven, aside from Model Y, which I'll probably get death threats for saying rides worse than getting waterboarded. On the high end, the segment varies wildly. The Prologue does a good job of adding more luxury features to an already well-optioned vehicle. To my surprise, while doing research for this video, the Cadillac Lyriq, which has a starting price of $1,000 to $2,000 more than a top-of-the-line Prologue Elite, does very little in terms of offering more than some extra power and range. If I was gonna have one, I'd probably lease a base model or own a top of the line. It's free money anyway, might as well get as much as you can. At the end of the day, even if it's a GM in Honda clothing, the Honda clothing is still probably going to retain a higher resale value than its competition. And with how mind-numbingly similar all the competition is, it would be insane not to pick one based on your lifestyle and preferences. Unlike how you should get subscribed to Tread Depth for more horrifyingly confusing car reviews, and like last time, we'll see you next time. And if you do decide on buying one, tell them Gabe sent you.